Dear +3 first year science students, I am now discussing the topic the fight between leopards written by Jim Corbett. So I will show you the third part of the story. Part 1 has gone, part 2 has gone, and I will discuss the part 3 of the story, third part. Today, we mark darkness had now fallen. Darkness had now fallen, having asked the assembled people to be as silent during the night as it was possible for them to be. I sent them to their respective homes and took up position on the veranda, where, by lying on my side and heaping a little straw in front of me, I had a clear view of the kill without there being much chance of my being seen myself. Darkness had now fallen. So it was a stormy night. Jim Corbett had already pointed out earlier that it was a stormy night, but the storm has already gone. The storm is over, and the sky is clouded. The sky is clouded, and there is a sound coming from the house. And Jim Corbett requested all the villagers to be quiet, to be silent. Unless they are silent, unless they become silent, the leopards will never come from the forest, will never come from the mountain. Since he has already left the kill, he has left the kill, or he has left the dead body, he has left the corpse, externite. It will come positively to the village in order to take away the corpse, and the villagers must be silent. No yelling sound can be heard, and the writer Jim Corbett is ready to shoot at sight. When the leopard would come, the writer was there to shoot at sight. And that is why he requested almost all the villagers, especially the women folk, who should not create any sound. If sound is created, the leopard would never appear in the village, would never come to the village from the mountain. And he has already made an earnest request to the villagers to be very quiet and silent. So you come to the topic. Darkness had now fallen. Darkness has already appeared. It has already created. It has already made a canopy, dark canopy all over there. I have told you it was a stormy night, and there was a dark canopy. There was a dark cover all over the earth, and the writer Jim Corbett was very daring, and he was on his way to shoot the leopard, so that he had already made the preliminary arrangement. He had already made the preliminary arrangement. The preliminary arrangement, before arrangement, he had already made, and just the night came. The darkness of the night appeared. The dungeon of the night appeared. You mark. Darkness had now fallen. Darkness had already come. Having asked the assembled people to be as silent during the night, as it was possible for them to be, they must be silent. They must be silent. They should not create any, even if a little sound. They should not create even if a little sound. So that is why the writer was very careful, and he requested the villagers to be very sincere and careful. And they should not create any sound. I sent them to their respective homes and a look up position on the veranda here by lying on my side and heaping a little straw in front of me. So the villagers all found indoors. The villagers are all found indoors. And the writer was there on the veranda and watching the corpse, the dead body of the boy, which had been left by the leopard. And with straw, the heap of straw, the writer had hidden himself, and he is with his swords. He is with his swords and watching the boy's corpse and waiting for the arrival of the leopard. It is a man-eater. The leopard is a man-eater, and another leopard is their local leopard. The leopard, each leopard has its territory. Each leopard has its territory, and nobody should enter the territory. If one enters, if another leopard enters the territory, the fight begins. So the territory has been fixed by, has been made by, has been created by the leopard, and there is a local leopard who has that territory. He will never give any support to the intrusion. He will never give any support to the intrusion. No trespassers would come into his territory. So when a trespasser would come into the territory, would surpass the boundary wall, would surpass the boundary of the territory, by the time the fight begins. So each and every leopard has its own territory, Each and every remark has its own area. And he is the monarch of that area. He is the king of that area. If any leopard comes into the territory, the fight begins. What Jim Corbett has pointed out. You mark, dear students, that the night fell and the people of the villages were requested to be indoors, to be there inside the houses, especially the women, because they were yelling by the time. They were yelling, and the women were to be kept in the four walls of the houses, and that was also done. And again, the respective homes, they went to their respective homes and took up position on the veranda. So the writer took up position on the veranda here by lying on my side and heaping a little straw in front of me, in front of him. He heaped a little straw in front of him. The straw was heaped so that the leopard would never see the writer. The leopard would never see a man just beside the heap of straw. So that was done. And the writer was in the village on the veranda. The writer was on the veranda of that woman who had lost her child. And that woman and the daughter had already been transported to other places. They have already gone to other place. And the writer was there on the veranda. And watching, the writer was there and he was watching the arrival of that leopard. And the boy's corpse was there in front of him. And he was also seeing the boy's corpse and watching the arrival of the leopard. Man-eater. Leopard was a man-eater. And position on veranda here, by lying on my side and heaping a little straw in front of me, I had a clear view of the kill without there being much chance of my being seen myself. So the writer saw the kill. Kill means dead body. Kill means corpse. CORPSE, corpse. CORPSE. And that corpse was visible to him. In the dark night, he could see the corpse, the dead body of the boy. Though a heap of straw was there in front of him. And a heap of straw had been kept there in front of him, so that the leopard, the man eater, would never see the writer, and he would come to his kill. It will come to its kill. And again you see, I had a clear view of the kill without there being much chance of my being seen myself. He sees the kill, and nobody can see. You mark. He is seen without being seen. Mark. He is seen without being seen. He sees everything without being seen. Nobody can see. The leopard cannot see him. The leopard cannot see him, and he can see the leopard. So this is a very comfortable position. The writer is sitting on the veranda of that woman who has lost the child, and the writer is watching for the leopard to come, and he will shoot at sight. That is why he is very eager, he is very anxious, he is very agog, very anxious to kill the animal who has caused a damage to the entire family. The boy was the only member of the family, and the girl was there, a daughter. The old woman was crying, and the daughter was there. They had been shifted to another place. They had already gone to another place as per the direction of the writer, Jim Corbett. All the villagers were indoors, found indoors, and they had already been captivated within the four walls of the houses, and the darkness appeared, the dudgeon appeared, and the leopard would come from the forest, would come from the mountain. So it was the foothill of the Himalayas. It was the foothill of the Himalayas. The village was on the foothill of the Himalayas, very close, very adjacent to the Himalayas. In spite of all the noise that had been made the previous night, I had a feeling that the leopard would return, and that when he failed to find his kill where he had left it, he would come to the village to try and secure another victim. So Easter night, last night, that is called Easter night. Easter night or last night, there was a loud hue and cry. And the leopard feared, rattled. The leopard was rattled, feared, and he left the village, leaving the corpse of the child. Left the village, jumped the wall, leaving the corpse of the child. But today, at night, the leopard would come positively. Despite the huge hue and cry, despite the loud voice heard by it yesterday or Easter night, the leopard would come to the corpse at night today. So the writer was very sure, because he had already studied the nature of the animals. You might have heard the name of Saroj Raja Chaudhary. Who is a reared the Khoiri and so many animals. He was working in the forest department in Similipal, and he reared the Khoiri, very dangerous tigers and other animals. And he had already studied the nature of animals. Likewise, Jim Corbett has studied the nature of the animals, the nature of the leopards, the nature of the lions, tigers, and he shoots at them when his life is at stake. When his life is at stake, when his life is in danger, he shoots at them and finally fulfills his mission. Since he is a British colonel, since he is a high official in the British Army in India, of the British Army in India, and he is known to the allied masses, he is known to the readers very much, and he had that experience to kill tigresses, and other animals, ferocious and fierce animals. He has that capacity, caliber. And today he has been invited to the village to kill the leopard. The man has been invited to the village to kill the leopard, to shoot at the leopard. Because it has already done damage to the family of that mother, to the family of that woman, and the male member of the family has gone. And that is why the writer has been invited. You come to another point. And in spite of all, so yesterday night, the leopard had heard the voice of the village. The leopard had already heard the sound of the drums. The leopard had already heard the sound of the grenade, the sound of the grenade, the sound of the drums. Leopard had heard. Hue and a cry, large hue and a cry, huge hue and a cry, huge hue and a cry. It had already heard. But still, it would come to them. The writer was very sure that it would come to them. And again, when he failed to find his kill, when he had left it, he had come to the village to try and secure another victory. Again, you mark. He would never find the corpse where it had been left. When he would never find the corpse, never find the dead body of that boy in the place, on the place where it had left, the leopard would come to the village for another victim. The leopard would come to the village for another victim. If one victim had already gone missing, the leopard will try for the second time to collect another victim coming to the village. So the leopard would positively come to the village at night and secure another victim. He would search for, he would look for another victim. And positively he would come to the village. In spite of the sound made by the people yesterday night. So, you see, the ease with which he had secured his first victim at Bhagswara would encourage him to try again. And I started my vigil with high hopes. With hopes and aspiration. The writer kept vigil on the situation. VIGIL. The writer kept vigil on the situation with hope and aspiration. You mark, the second victim was to be searched for by the leopard in the village, and it would positively come to the village, no doubt. And the writer was very hopeful. The writer was very optimistic. The writer was very hopeful and optimistic. He was with his hope and aspiration. The writer was. You mark. Again, you come to the third part of the third passage. Today's passage. Heavy clouds had been gathering all the evening. The sky was clouded, overcast. And heavy clouds had been gathering all the evening. And at 8 p.m., when all the village sounds, except the wailing of the women, we are hushed. The village was hushed. That means the entire village was soundless. The entire village was still and quiet. And somewhere, the sound of the women, the yelling of the women was coming. The yelling of the women. The women were always there to create sounds. Because they would abuse their husbands. They would rebuke their husbands. They would do many things. So that their sounds are heard. And he is telling about the women folk. The writer was telling about the women folk who are still producing sound, very low sound coming from the houses. That sound was produced by the women. And leaving the sound of the women, and the entire village was silent. The entire village was soundless. The entire village was mute. The entire village was quiet, calm and quiet, calm and quiet. Hushed. Hushed. Hushed is quiet and still. Hushed. Hushed. Quiet and still. A flash of lightning followed by a distant roll of thunder heralded an approaching storm. Oh, a flash of lightning followed by a distant roll of thunder heralded an approaching storm. So, a storm is approaching. Since the mountain is very close to, the Himalayas is very close to the village, the people had to face the Herculean task. The writer had to face the Herculean task, the Himalayan task, the Herculean task, a vital task the writer had to face. The mountain is very close to the village. The pieces of clouds would dash against the mountain and would start pouring rain. They would start pouring rain, dashing against the mountain, colliding with the mountain. Colliding with the mountain, dashing against the mountain, they would start pouring rain. That is down. When the mountain is very high, the mountain is very high, and in the Himalayas, I am telling you about the Himalayas, and all the foothill villages, adjacent villages would suffer from severe rainfall, and storm. And the storm was approaching. You to mark, the storm was approaching. The storm was approaching. And again, distant roll of the thunder, the lightning was marked, and the sound of the thunder was heard. That was heralded. The sound of the thunder was heralded, was heard. An approaching storm. For an hour, the storm raged. For an hour, the storm raged. The lightning being so continuous and brilliant that had a rat ventured into the courtyard, I would have seen it and probably been able to shoot it. So, even if the lightning was so prominent, the lightning gave you, or the lightning gave the writer the situation, or it already gave this writer situation in such a situation that the writer would be able to see even if a rat, a small animal, and the writer would shoot it easily, because the lightning brought the image of a day at night. The lightning was so clear. The lightning was so prominent. It produced day during the night. So everything is visible. By help of the lightning, everything is visible. The writer says that even if a rat can be killed, a rat can be shot at, a rat can be shot, a rat can be shot, S-H-O-T. A rat can be shot. A small animal can be easily killed by the writer. He can shoot at even if the small animal, even if the rat, that can be killed easily. That can be killed. The rat can be easily killed. So by the flash of the lightning, many things are visible. Even if small things, ignorable things are visible. Very unimportant things are visible. A small moth is visible, moth, M-O-T-H. A small moth is visible. A small insect is visible by the flash of the light. So the writer says that even if a rat, which is very cunning, a rat cannot be shut down. A rat cannot be easily killed. Only the cat can catch the rat. A cat can catch the rat. A human being can never catch the rat easily. It is very cunning, very shrewd. It cannot catch the rat easily. It is very cunning and very shrewd. S-H-R-E-W-D, shrewd. Very cunning, very shrewd. So even if the rat can be killed, anybody can kill the rat by the flash of the lightning. Lightning is very cunning. And again, the writer wants to say, for an hour the storm raged, the storm raged. For an hour the storm was there. It was raged. The rage of the storm was beyond fathom. The rage, R-A-G-E, wrath, rage, anger. Anger of the storm, the wrath of the storm, the rage of the storm was uncontrollable. That was beyond fathom. The lightning being so continuous and brilliant that had a rat ventured into the courtyard. I should have seen it. I can easily see it and probably been able to shoot it. And the writer can shoot it easily, even if a small insect. And the rain eventually stopped. The rain disappeared. The rain stopped, but the sky remained overcast. The sky is still clouded. The rain disappeared. The sky was even clouded, overcast. Reducing visibility to a few inches. Reducing visibility to a few inches. Only you can see what is there within the few inches. What is there within the few inches. Beyond a few inches, you cannot see anything. The visibility is very poor. The visibility is very poor. So you cannot visualize. The visibility, you cannot visualize anything after a few inches. You cannot anything. Because the night is darkened. The night is murky, M-U-R-K-Y. The night is murky. The night is darkened. The night is full of danger. The night is full of, it is a stormy night, It is a stormy night. The rain eventually stopped, but the sky remained overcast. And reducing visibility to a few inches, the time had now come for Leopard to start from wherever he had been sheltering from the storm. And the time has come. After the storm is over, or after the rain is over, the pouring of rain is over, the storm is over, the leopard would come positively. The leopard would come positively, no doubt. And the writer was hopeful, and optimistic. Wait for a while. So, dear students, I will resume the topic. I will resume again my talk. Again, the writer wants to say, for the sky remained overcast. The sky is clouded, fully clouded. The night is full of darkness. The night is full of danger. It is murky. It looks murky, very dark. But the sky remained overcast, reducing visibility to a few inches. After a few inches, you will see You will see within 4 inches or beyond these 4 inches. You cannot see. Beyond these a few inches, you will never see anything. But the visibility is very poor. The visibility is very poor. The time had now come for the leopard to start from wherever he had been sheltering from the storm. And now the leopard would come from the actual habitation. From its actual habitation, the leopard would come from the actual habitation, where it had been domiciled, or where it had stayed. And the time has already come. And the time of his arrival would depend on the distance of that place from the village. Where he is, that place is not known to the writer, known to the villagers. Where he resides, His place or its place is not at all known to the writer and other villagers. And it requires the timing from the place of its habitation to the village. How much time is required? That depends upon the place of habitation. Where the leopard stays. Where the leopard stays, where is his habitation, where is his resting place, it depends upon the place where it resides. So that the leopard would consume time to reach at the place. So that is why the writer is agog, Jim Corbett is agog. Jim Corbett is fully agog to see the arrival of the leopard. And again you come, and the time of his arrival would depend on the distance of that place from the village. And the women now stopped wailing. The women, they were silent now. Especially the writer is telling about the women who are frequently creating sound. They are frequently creating sounds without any sufficient rhyme or reason. Without any sufficient rhyme or reason. Without any causes, without any reasons. They are creating sounds. So that is their nature, what I think. That is there. So the writer is frequently telling about the women. The wailing of the women stopped. And in all the world, there appeared to be no sound. So the entire world looked soundless. Normally in the village, that village is soundless. Why? Now it is segregated from other villages. That village is segregated from other villages because that village was on the foothill of the Himalayas. And other villages where they are away. They are away. And that particular village has been segregated away from other villages. So that is why it sometimes remains in calmness. Only the sound of the women is heard. The sound of the women is heard sometimes. In spite of his repeated request. In spite of his repeated request made by him. In spite of the request made by him, the sound is going on. The creation of a sound is going on. That sound is produced by the women, not by the man. What the writer said. The women now stopped wailing, and in all the world there appeared to be no sound. No sound was there. And this was as I had hoped it would be. So the writer wanted that. The writer wanted that. That silence was wanted by him. Silence was wanted by him. It was very essential in order to shoot at the man-eater. In order to shoot at the man-eater, silence was required. For all, I had to warn me of the leopard's arrival over my ears. And to help them, I had used the dog chain instead of a rope. So you mark, you are fully aware. You are fully aware that the leopard was approaching. He was fully aware. And he had already kept his ear open. He had already kept his ear open for the arrival of the leopard. I have told you that the leopard is a secretive animal. Secretly. It goes secretly, just like a cat. It will never produce any sound. On the grassland, on the grassy land or grassland, the leopard will go without producing any sound. It is very secretive, just like cat. And it will go without making any sound. Nobody can say that a leopard is coming, or nobody can easily grasp. Nobody can easily smell. Nobody can easily hear the sound of the leopard. Cannot hear. Because it is very secretive. Secretly it comes. So again you mark, I had used the dog chain instead of a rope. So instead of a rope, he had used the dog chain. The writer had used the dog chain to bind. He had used the dog chain. Again, the straw that had been provided for me was as dry as a tinder. The straw was just like tinder, very dry and flammable material. Tinder means dry and flammable material. So it was very dry. Though It was raining that night. It was raining that night. The storm had come to that village that night, but the straw was dry. No, it was as tinder dry. And my ears, and turning into the black darkness, first I heard the sound when it was level with my feet. Something was creeping, and the writer heard the sound. First sound. His ear caught the sound. His ear heard the sound first. And he thought perhaps, he speculated, the leopard had already come. Perhaps the leopard appeared in the village and very stealthily creeping over the straw on which I was lying. And the writer was lying. And by that time, he heard sound, and the sound of an animal, creeping sound of an animal, and that animal was found over the straw. That animal was found over the straw on which the writer was sleeping, on which the writer was lying. And he had kept a heap of straws in front of him, and he had already lied there. And again, you mark, and the straw on which I was lying, I was wearing an article of a clothing called shorts, which left my legs bare in the region of my knees. From knee to feet. From knee to feet. His legs were kept bare. His legs were kept bare from knee to feet. From knee to feet. Because he has used shorts, half pant. He has used half pant shorts. And from knees to feet, his legs were bare. And again, presently against the bare skin, I felt the hairy foot of an animal. Brushing it could only be the man-eater creeping up until he could lean over and get a grip of my throat. And the writer thought, after feeling the presence of an animal by his legs, feeling the presence of an animal by his legs, feeling, he could guess. Perhaps, he could think perhaps the leopard had come. The leopard had come, he thought the leopard had come. Because he had already felt the presence of one animal by his legs, bare legs, and could imagine that the leopard had already come to the village. But he could not see. He could not see anything. It was too murky. And again, you mark, and he could lean over and get a grip of mine. That finally, that leopard would come towards his throat, or he would extend his arms towards his throat and start gripping his throat. And start gripping his throat easily. That was the thought of the writer. And again, what did he see? A little pressure now on my left shoulder to get a foothold. And then, just as I was about to press the trigger of the rifle to cause a diversion, a small animal jumped down. When the writer was about to, when he had already had the feeling, when the writer had the feeling that the leopard has already come to him, and the leopard is about to catch hold of his throat, about to grip his throat, and he had kept his rifle ready now. The writer Jim Corbett has kept his rifle ready. He is about to shoot. You mark. And a small animal jumped down between my arms and my chest. There was a small animal. There was a very small animal. The writer saw. What are that small animal? It was a little kitten. It was a kitten, a cat category. It was a kitten. It was a kitten. The writer marked the presence of a kitten by his body, bare body, from knees to feet. His legs were bare, and he felt the presence of that kitten by his bare legs, and that kitten was going towards his throat, and he thought perhaps the leopard had come to grip him or to clutch him, and he tried his best. Finally, he to started his rifle, or he was about to keep ready his rifle and would start shooting at the animal, thinking it as the leopard. And when he was about to do the work, finally he saw a kitten. It was a kitten, a little kitten, soaking wet, that had been caught out in the storm, and finding every tour shot had come to me for warmth and protection. And when the kitten saw that every door was shut down, every door was shut, and every door was closed, when the kitten saw, he had already come to the writer, come to the straw, in order to have rest. In order to have rest, it was fully wet. In the rain, it was fully wet. And the kitten, out of being helpless, has already come to the straw. And it is quite oblivious. It is quite ignorant. The writer is there lying. The writer is there lying, watching for the leopard to come. Watching for the leopard to come. And come to me for warmth and protection. For warmth and protection, that kitten had come. Because it is fully wet. It is drenched. It is fully wet in the rain. And it has come to come for warmth and protection. So that it has come to the heap of straw. The kitten had hardly made itself comfortable inside my coat, and I was just beginning to recover from the fright it had given me. First of all, the kitten had already given me fright. He feared that the leopard had already come, but now the writer was fearless. The writer was fearless. When from beyond the terraced fields there was some low growling which gradually grew louder. Then after the kitten's episode was gone, a growling was heard. That was the growling, low sound, low growling, which gradually grew louder. Gradually it became louder and louder. Then it emerged into the most savage fight I have ever heard. There was the sound of the fighting between the two leopards. He heard the sound of the fighting. He marked the presence of two leopards ahead of him. Marked the presence of two leopards ahead of him, fighting each other, two leopards. One is a local leopard, the second one is a man-eater, coming from the mountain ranges. It has already come to the village. And another is a local leopard, and the fighting has already gone in between the two. Mortal fight. There is a mortal fight between the two leopards. So this is a fight which has already begun. That fight has not been seen earlier by the writer. This is the first time, very fatal, mortal fight. That is a combat going on. Combat, C-O-M-B-A-T, combat going on. Then it emerged into the most savage fight I have ever heard. The writer has never heard such a sound of the fight. And quite evidently, the man-eater had returned to the spot. The man-eater has come. And where the previous night he had left his kill, where he had left the boy, the dead body of the boy, the man-eater has come to that spot. Come to that spot. And while he was searching for it, in not too good in temper, another mad leopard who looked upon this particular area as his hunting ground, had accidentally come across him and sat on him. And without getting the corpse, without getting the dead body of the boy, the leopard, the man-eater leopard, was very furious. And in the meantime, he came across another leopard. That leopard was a local leopard. It was called a local leopard. That local leopard has an area. You mark. The local leopard has an area. A man-eater can never enter. A man-eater can never enter. If it enters, the fight begins. You mark. So every leopard has his area or has its area. Every leopard. So that area is his. He is the monarch of that area, the king of that area. Any leopard comes to that area means the fighting will begin. The fight will begin. You mark. Fights of the nature of the one. That was taking place in my hearing are very unusual. Unusual fight was there. For carnivora who are eating flesh. Carnivora invariably keep to their own areas, and if by chance two of a sex happen to meet, same sex or another sex happen to meet, they size up, evaluate. Size up means evaluate. They examine, size up. Look upon means consider. Look upon, consider, regard, look upon. LWKUP, look upon. The meaning of look upon, phrasal verb, is consider. And the meaning of size up is evaluate. The meaning is evaluate. And if by chance two of a sex, particular sex, happen to meet, the size of each other's capabilities at a glance. They examine their capabilities at a glance. And the weaker gives way to the stronger. The weaker is defeated and it gives way to the stronger. That is the nature of the carnivorous animals. That is the nature of carnivorous animals. A carnivorous animal will never allow his same species, into his territory. If that comes into the territory, the fight begins. Mortal fight begins. The combat begins. COMBAT. The combat begins. That is the problem goes on. So that is why the writer says that every leopard has a territory and he is the monarch of the territory. All in the territory. He is the king of the territory. He will never give any scope to the intrusion. He will never give any scope to the intrusion. And dear students, this is about the third part of the story, and the last part is to be discussed later. Thank you all.